You don't tell us.
How do they say what you don't do for the sake of pilsum?
For the sake of what?
I say what you don't do for the sake of pilsum. Right. So we go down to the union of Leis Machshava Tfisa Bei Klau. And we saw that word, the Shaykh, union of Hasoger in Elkus is only in the Erein Seif HaShayach Lo Elements. What sort of Elkus is Shayach Lo Elements? Ha'ora Ha'elakis HaMislabeshes Ba'elements. But Mislabeshes means that it enters the elements and becomes united with their Pneumius and with their Hakbolas, with that union of Islapshus B'tech HaLavush. Lahach Yoson, and to give them life, which means that if you're Machayer, Adova Mugbal, Adova Shofel, in the union of Nivroim, Beneget, as compared to Elikus, and that means that there's it's only a ha'ora, called a luminescence from Elikus, and also it's come, from Shayach to the elements, then it's in a form of Yerida and Tzimtzum Godel. Aval b'chinas atzmus eirin seif enu Shayach tefisa al yidei hasoge, and therefore we say leis machashova tefisa bei. And so the word tefisa, as is mavur in Tanya, Berikei, Barichas, the union of tefisa, means the grasp of the seichel, whereby the seichel contains the thing inside it and unites with it in a very high yichud, as he brings over there in Tanya Barichas, in Berikei, the word tefisa. And you're taking reference to this statement of the Tikkun Ezer that leis machshava tefisa beiklau. So therefore, in a ha'orable vada, shayach lenivroim, there can be a hasoga, which is tefisa b'poyo, but in atzmas ein seif leis machshava tefisa. Tehine yedua sheyesh beis mine hasoga. If we talk in hasoga, then there are two types of hasoga, meaning that when we negate the idea of hasoga altogether in atzmas ein seif, and we say that leis machashava tefisa bei, or leis hasoga tefisa bei, then we are cancelling out with that, or we are negating with that, the highest form of hasoga, the highest imaginable boifan of hasoga. And so the Rebbe says, in order to understand just how much we are negating this whole idea of hasoga in atzmas elokus, then we have to first of all appreciate just how high can one go in hasoga, how high is a child to reach in the union of hasoga. And so therefore he points out that there are two mine, meaning sugim and types of hasoga, and yet nonetheless atzmas ein seif is l'mayla completely from both sorts of hasoga. So what are those two types of hasoga? Hasogas hachiyuv v'hasogas hashlila. But these are words that are used in the very early, these are terms which are used, sometimes they're used the word toyarei hachiyuv or toyarei hashlila. Descriptive terms literally of chiyuv or descriptive terms of shlila. And these are brought down in the Rambam and the Sefer Ikarim and the very early Gedolei Yisrael, the early Rishonim, that they wrote by way of Hakira, an inquiry into Elokuz. So they used these expressions, Hasoga, or Toyara Achiyu, or Hasogas Achiyu, Hasogas Ashlila, which means the Hasoga of positivity, chiyuv, meaning something that can be reached by way of positivity, hachiyuv, v'asoris hashlila, a grasp or appreciation which is only by way of negation. Shlila means to negate something or to rule it out. Shlila. So he says, asoris hachiyuv. What do we mean by the term positive or essential grasp in a way that it's a positive act? Asoris hachiyuv. Ashu shemasig etzem hadova, that he is able to grasp the essence of that particular inyan. Shemasig eich umahu, that he's able, in the power of his reasoning, in the power of his seichel, he's able to appreciate how and what that is. So what is an expression which refers more to the limitations in place and in Gashmiyas almost. In other words, the inyan, what you might call the space and the actual body of the thing. Yeah. In other words, what you might describe as the quantity of it. That's the inyan of mahu. And eich is more the idea of quality. Eichus, as a noun, is connected with the idea of quality, meaning more the ruchnius or the pnimius of the inyan. So, if a certain entity is such that our seichel can embrace both the pnimius and the ruchnius and the outward makeup or the kli of that particular inyan, then we call that a sogas chiyuv, meaning that you are positively using your seichel and you're, in a way, almost, you might say, compelling that this be the case by your understanding of it. You're proving your case by intimate understanding. And that's the idea of asogas hachiyuv. V'asogas hashlila, as hu she'etzem hadova iyef lahasig, that the very essence of the thing, how it is, in the eich and the ma, it's impossible to grasp. Ki'im ma she'efshar lo lishloel mizeh, that it's possible for him to negate from this inyan he's trying to appreciate, or inyanim shebetvar musar. In other words, that he takes inyanim which are there in things that he has understood, and he says that in this inyan that I'm now trying to appreciate, those things are not shaykh. In other words, he's not able, because of the tremendous elevation and the transcendency of the matter that he's trying to understand, he can't actually directly understand it. He can't actually reach that high because it's mutal from normal sogas hachiyuv. What he can say is that I can say that in that level that I'm trying to reach, it doesn't, I can take the level that I have been masig, and I can say that it's beyond those idionim. In other words, that those things that my seichel was able positively to grasp in the lower inyan, I can say that all those things are not applicable in the higher inyan. In other words, that there's a certain kesher and relationship between the two, but it's in a way of negation. In other words, that they're not completely and utterly ein arich one to the other. There's something which is completely and utterly ein arich, then you can't talk about it in any way, in a way that would relate. Yeah, like the Alter Rebbe brings in Shara Yichud V'Emunah in Perek Tes, that he writes over there that it's like as if you would say about if you talk about if you say that you can't grasp etzem elokus, yeah, then it's like as if you're saying that you can't touch an inyan from chokmah, that you can't play with your hands in an inyan from chokmah. Yeah, then that's a ridiculous thing to say because it doesn't make any sense. In the same way, you can't say that I can't appreciate etzem elokus, because it's not in the giver that anybody should ever be able to appreciate it. So by saying that you can't appreciate it, it's like a foolish remark. So therefore, when we say that in a higher inyan you can negate that what you understood in the matter that you were able to appreciate fully, and you negate that from the higher level. It's a sign that the higher level has some distant relation to that lower level, because otherwise it wouldn't make any sense to differentiate and say that in this lower level I was able to grasp it, with exactitude and positivity, and in this level I can't, because if it was just ein arek, then that wouldn't make any sense either. So therefore, he said that what you can do is you can cancel out from the higher madrega the things that you found in the Dover HaMusag, and you could say the Shom Einam Shayochim Minyonim Elu, and in that madrega that I'm trying to reach now are those things that I found in the Musag, where I was able to be mazik. They're not shayach in this higher level.
So to be able to say I don't know about something, you have to know a little bit about it.
Exactly. You have to have some relationship to it. Otherwise, you can't say these things that I do know are not shayach up there, because it was just absolutely mudo betachlis. So it doesn't make any. There's no point in saying that. You follow? There's a zikr that when we say leis machshava tafisa bei klau, then there's a zikr that in the Atzma say leis machshava tafisa bei. Well, that's not so much of a chiddush. When I say leis machshava tafisa, even in the Dover HaMushlal, also to a certain extent, I'm saying that. But I say it with a certain how do you call it, interrelationship, inter-yachas. So it comes out that the immediate upshot from leis machshava tfisa bei is really not a chiddush. It's just it's like informing you or reminding you of something that every now and then you just need to remind yourself that you can't possibly judge elikus amitias in any form of reasoning whatsoever. So therefore he says, ki im ma she'ef shaloi lishloyo, the sham einam shayochim miyonim mei. Asogas hachiyuv shayach b'derech klal v'ha'ora ha'elekis ha'mishlabeshes b'oilames. And once again we see the word here mislabeshes, that it enters the oilames by way of pnimiyas, like a goof enters a lavush and interrelates to them, and is just like your lavush is according to the measurements of your body, and it relates to your body, and there's interaction between them. And if it weren't measured to your body and your body not fit to the lavush, then it just it disturbs you and interferes with you. So in the same way, this is a ha'ora l'kis which enters the oilamas, like we just saw that expression, and we say why liyois shezehu rach ha'ora levad, it's only a luminescence, umitzamtzim, and we saw that it goes through tzimtzumim in itself. Mitzamtzim, it goes through tzimtzumim in itself. Umishlabesh bo oilamas, and it enters mamish in the pnimiyas and relates to the hagbolas and the limitations of that particular level or that particular nivra into which it is being mislabeish. So he says, Shayach poseh inyan asoge, since it enters into and it's limited itself, kaviyocho, the elikus itself has limited itself according to the limitations of that particular oilam or proti hanivroim sheba oilam. Therefore, it's Shayach inyan v'nasoge leida esadover eich umahu. That you can know something about that elikus. Eich umahu. In other words, not only the nivra, but you can even know something about the elikut. And like he says, based on the famous posik in Iyov, ukemoi mi besori echzeh elokah. But that's the famous posik in Iyov, that from my flesh I can see divinity. Echzeh elokah. That's brought all over and says touched in many places. And when we say mibsori, just purely from the flesh, we don't necessarily know, but from the interrelationship of the nefesh with the flesh. In other words, the interrelationship and the way the nefesh lives, the way the basar lives and reacts to the nefesh, well, that basis, I can come to a certain appreciation in the Elikus, which is mislavish in that and makes it live, and even to the point that I can say echazeh. What the word echazeh means, I will see. But it's mavur incident, so that's a targum. It's a translation of the word to see. The word to see in Lashon Kodesh is lireis. Yeah, lechazot means like to envision something, like to see it in a ruchnistic way. In other words, you don't see it in a actual chushtic way like you do. For example, I see this box here, I see the table, then you can't say I need chozer at the table. That doesn't make any sense. The word chozer is a spiritual type of seeing. In other words, that I have a high level of awareness until I call it similar to seeing. But it's a usage of the mind, it's a usage of the understanding. And therefore he said that from the spirituality which enters the body, that's what we mean by the word Vesodi, Echzeh Elka, I can see divinity. Yeah, but meaning I can understand divinity. Why? Because it's come down according to the basa. It's entered into the body, and it's there in the form of Islapshus and Hagbola, and therefore I'm able on that basis to understand in Yonim in Elikut. Ava, Erin Seif Shalamayla Islapshus Ba'ilamas, the Erin Seif which is beyond that whole entering into by way of enclosement into the Ilamas, Einoi Shayach Inyan Asoga Mamish. You can't have there Mamish Asoga. What the word Mamish means, the idea of Mamoshes, how do you call it? Almost like a spiritual Inyan, almost like a physical thing, meaning I can't have there absolutely the whole concept of Asoga. Ki'im, what I can have is Asoga Shlila. Ma shebiyachiltei, it's within the capacity of the thinker, shebiyachiltei, lishloil, to negate, sha'enyonim sheba'aora, shemusag, einu shayach loima v'erein shef shemufla mihoilamet. Well, that's what I understood in Mipsore Echzeh. Well, that's what I can understand from that Elikus which comes into Islapshus. Then I say about the Elikus which is Lamayla mi Islapshus Ba'ilamas, which we're soon going to call that the Eratzeiv Kolaomin. In that, it's not shaykh, all these inyanim that I see and that I was able to grasp in a positive way in the Eratzeiv Amalubish Ba'ilamas. So what I do is I say, those things in the Shalamayla mi Islapshus, all those things that I found down here are not in that. In other words, I say it's higher than that, and it's beyond this Indian, it's beyond that Indian. But through that I form, albeit not a direct form of understanding, but I form a certain indirect picture of the Indian that I'm talking about, even though I don't really describe it in a direct way. But since I'm saying what it's not, then to a certain extent, yeah, I do form a certain grasp of that Indian, even though I don't grasp it in the real sense. In other words, that I have what's called a soga of the haflua. I come to the realization of just how withdrawn this thing really is. And so therefore he said that. Now we notice here he uses the word einu shach leva and shisham mufla. Now we read up with the word mufla mihoilamet. Who in asogas haflua? In other words, asogas hashlila is really a form of asoga of the wondrousness. Shemasik eich sha'erin seif mufla mi'olamas, valideh shlilo hari hu masik eichus v'oifen afla. He said, and through the union of the shlila, he comes to appreciate the quality, literally, and the oifan and the manner of the afloa. Mi'achas sheshoilo inyonim shebaha'ora mi'a'erein seif hamufla hari masik alideze eichus afloa de'erein seif ad sheyochel liyis kitzas hakore be'etzem hadover hamufla. So here we see that we're going higher and higher, we're creeping higher as we go. So first of all, we move from the word asogas ashlila to the word asogas afloa. And we said that through this act of shlila, then he can be masig a certain quality and manner in that hafloa. Since, after all, he is shoyl those inyanim, sheba ha'ora, in his ha'ora that he originally had, the Hainu the ha'ora which comes into his slapshas, mi ha'orein seif ha'mufla. He's cancelling out those things in the ha'ora from the orein seif ha'mufla. Hari masig ali deizeh, that through that cancelling out, then he comes to appreciation of the eichus, of the manner of the afloa, or the quality of that afloa, ad shiyochel liyesh kitzas hakora be'etzem adova hamufla. He can come to a certain recognition in the very essence of the thing which is mufla, meaning the orein seif, which is lamayla me'olam. He comes to a certain appreciation. So, in order to understand what the Rebbe is saying here, we have to examine this word hafloa for a minute. What is there's a lotion which occurs. It's not actually a posik. It's not a posik. As a matter of fact, I think it's even brought down from one of what they call the Sfarim Achitzonim. There were certain books that wanted, but there was an application or consideration that maybe they would be included in the 24 books of the Tanakh, but they weren't. Yeah. So they're called the Sfarim Achitzonim that didn't actually get included. So over there, one of them, there's an expression which says, "B'machusa, b'machusa mincha lo yisachchoyer, b'mufla mincha lo yisachshoyer." I forgot exactly the Russian. That something which is hidden from you, completely hidden, that don't even inquire, don't even research into the matter. Something which is wondrous from you, then don't think about it too much. Or something. Don't kid yourself that you're getting to it. So we see that the inyaf and mechusa means something completely covered. But something mufla means that it's wondrous, but it's not necessarily out of complete touch. One of the inyanim in that is that we see we use the word hafloa in the Torah. Beneger to anozia. It's written, ish ki yafli lahafli neder linze lahanzi or linze neza nozia lahashem. It's a lot in the Torah. Be Pasha Ba'aloishcha beneger to the inyan of nozia. So Rashi says over there, what's this inyan from ish ki yafli from Rosh Hafloa? So Rashi says that something which is mufla, something which is wondrous, is higher than Rov B'nai Odom. It's higher than B'nai Odom al derech harogil, but it is possible for B'nai Odom to reach it. And therefore, Nozi is a person, he's unusually high. He goes out of the normal run of people, and he's madbik himself in Elikus l'mailami get a harogil. So therefore, it's called hafla. Ish ki yafli, hafli neder lahashem. So there we see a clear definition on the part of Rashi that the word hafloa means something that's beyond the ragil, it's completely beyond the normal, but it is reachable. It's not completely unreachable. And therefore, when we say the word mechuseh, then we mean something that's completely covered from you. When we say mufla, we mean it's lamaila from you, and it's very moved out from you, but there's maybe some way that you might eventually reach it. And that's the idea of hafloa. So, what we're saying is that there's a level of elikus which we call mufla mi'o'elamas. Now, when we say that, we must mean a level of elikus which has got some possibility to call it in general relating to the elements. But it's not b'derech hislapshus. It's not in the normal way that elikus relates to elements. But nonetheless, it is related to Eilamas. And therefore the Nivroim in the Eilamas, their task is to grasp things, to handle man in a general way. Then he can grasp that which comes bislapshus, and he can eventually, if he'll really work hard by this means of shlila and negating things from going higher and higher, then he'll come to a certain appreciation of the hamufla miho'ilamas, which that bears out what we said before, that ultimately there must be some very distant connection bein zeh, and therefore we call it mufla. We don't call it completely out of the reach of the Adam, but we say it's mufla, which means that we're talking about a zamin geder in Elikus, which is a dova hamufla. So there was a delivery. If you act in such a way that you busy yourself with being shoylo the inyonim that are the ha'orel piece which comes into the world, and you shoylo those inyonim from this madrega of the Erin Seif, Bach we call it the Erin Seif hamufla, then you can come ali dezer to have some knowledge of the eiches of the afla. You can appreciate, and you can eventually grasp in your seichel just how the way that is mufla. You can even appreciate just how much it is mufla. In other words, you can have some sort of an appreciation of how distant it really is. And he said, Ali Dezeh, you come to a k'chas hakore in the very thing itself. But you notice he doesn't say hasoga, but he says hakora. And he says you come to a k'chas hakore in the very essence of the dover not in the essence, but in the madrega of the dover hamufla. The words one another. The word hakora we use when we get to the koyach hadas. Brought down in many places throughout the cities at the immediate. It's not a bit heavy, that thing. I mean, I must have been I'm bursting with heat here, but I'm wearing a coat. This, you guys are all down into your shirts or something. This, I find on the whole that it's a bit mavalval, that thing. It sort of swings the sharpness of the mind, or however you like to call it. So, therefore, I said that you can come to a kitas hakora. So what is the deen of an hakora? Hakora is like what you might call a fifth sense. You know, the famous expression, what they call it, the sixth sense, or the fifth sense. Is it like an extra realm where you can be aware of things, not in the normal, I think call it the sixth sense. Is that you're not, you can appreciate it, and you can recognize it, even though you haven't really got a hasoga in it, but you're more able to connect with it and be aware of it than you're not able to be. In other words, you've got some appreciation of it. In other words, that through the inyan of this being oisik in the whole time, saying no, it's not this, it's higher and it's higher, being shoyl from the madrega you're talking about, the things in the ha'orel, which comes into the slapshas, then you can appreciate not only just how it is mufla, how much, as you might say, in a very it's mufla, but you can also, and if you appreciate how much it's mufla, then to a certain extent you've reached it. We just said that it's l'mayla me'asoga. It's l'gamri l'mayla me'asoga. So how come you can reach it? You can only reach it through this act, which is called the union of hakora. In other words, a higher sense which comes from the etzem miskashvus of the neshama in Elikus. In other words, that if you didn't have malchatchila a shaykhis mitzad etzem inyan ha'odam to the inyan of Elikus, then ein hachanami. So anyway, let's get this over with, because everybody is in the meantime looking away. It's an interesting thing. No matter what happens, if anybody walks into the room when you're in the middle of a shir, everybody look at it. Everybody turns to him, everybody watches it. It's a human trait. Even even some of the big moichas I've had over the years, the Talmudim, it's an unavoidable thing if somebody comes in. Everybody immediately pays the most tremendous interest into what he's doing. Yes. Therefore, I must admit that if it was purely mitzad me, I wouldn't allow it to happen. But there we are. That's the necessities of this world sometimes. But in the old days when we used to learn siddur, I would never let anybody into the room. And when we first started in the old days, because it's immediately maval. Anyway, back to our theme. That we see that through the union of, if it weren't for the fact that there's a certain shaykhus of an Adam B'klal to Elokus, then he wouldn't be able to have this hakora. Because this hakora, when you say the word ani makir, I recognize somebody, then that means that to a certain extent you must have somehow or another had some connection with him in the past. Because otherwise the word lahakir, it doesn't really fit. Even though there's a certain realm in the word of hakora, as I said, which means like a higher sense, but it means to wake up to something that you already knew, or it can be and is known to you. And that's the implication of the word hakora.
Remember?
No. It's got nothing to do with remember. Lizkor is remember. It's a chila.
Recognize. To recognize.
Recognize. The word hakir means to recognize. But the word recognize is also not exactly the real translation, but that's getting very close to it. So he says that through being oisek in this shlila, then you can eventually appreciate just how much this thing is mushlal. If that's the case, then you must have some contact with it itself. If you've gone to the end, literally, of the appreciation of how much it's mufla, then I would say this is l'mayla mi'asoger. I would say that this whole union is l'mayla mi'asoger. So that was it. It is, but we have to say that there's a certain point, a certain ability in the klolos ability of the Adam, which is his moyach, albeit it's a union pnimi in the moyach, but it is connected with his klolos power of understanding, which leads him to a higher sense or recognition in this union, even though we can't really call it mamish hasoge in the real sense. But a ketzas hakora here, and a dugmal is there. We find that the Gemara says in Masechta Nedarim, but that's what's written in the Gemara. But there are other days are mentioned in Divrei Chazal of this particular Gemara is Benegerli in Yoneino. It's written that Ben Gimel Shana Hikir Avram Avinu es Boiroi. They state the lesson in the Gemara. That when he was only 3 years old, Avram Avinu recognized his creator. Hikir, they state in the Gemara. That's a very interesting lesson. Hikir Avram Avinu es Boiroi. So everybody, he's 3 years old, I think. So I mean, Avram Avinu was a gewaldige mensch even when he was 3 years old. Bilti Shavik, the famous Pisco. But our Rebbeim said about themselves that they were never boys, the famous. Well, if you do, then that's very good for you. If you don't, then I can't go into the whole way. It's a bit of an arichas. But the Alter Rebbe said about himself that he was never a boy, the man. Anyway, to get in there, we're going to have to go a big long story, so you just have to be mavata. Anyway, the story is that the Alter Rebbe said he was never a boy. So, it comes out the feast here. Even when the Alter Rebbe was 3 years old, he was in already. And it can be normal, inverted commas. No implication in the COVID of anybody, but normal people, can be normal people, as he was saying already. Well, after became at 3 years old, you can't really say somebody as a hasoga, pnimis article or something. Therefore, we say that he was makir, right? He had a recognition. He recognized and was aware of his creator. So it's mavur and considers that that's like a higher sense, which comes from the koyach hadas in the neshama, which is really a form of hakora. V'yiskashrus, it's not really an act of rationality like Chokmah and Bina. Even though Chokmah is also not mamish rationality, for that matter, neither is Bina, and nothing's really rational. But so of they are within certain definitional things rational. Mashikin Das is this whole idea of an ability to sense something beyond understanding and to nonetheless to have a certain appreciation of it, at least in the realm of the Moya. Said the Rebbe, you can come to a certain hakora in the Inyan, which is mufla completely, alidei, what you're oisik in this Inyan of what he calls here Sogas HaShlila, and you can come to a k'tzas hakora, not a lot of it, but a k'tzas, ki yudua mavua b'makim, acher, v'chol zeh shayef ba'erin say, sure. Full stop. We'll pause there, make a pause there. So here we see this concept of Asogas HaShlila. Now the truth is that Chassidus talks about Asogas HaShlila in different bifamim, in different manners. Therefore we need to be careful, how we define. But somewhat to our, what you might call convenience, the Rebbe is going here in one idea of Asogas HaShlila. In other words, he's taking certain things that I can be masig, even in divinity. What I'm not talking about Asogas HaMahus, I'm only talking about Asogas HaMetzias, and in that group of very simple Asogas HaMetzias, but it is Asoga. If I can be shayl that legabi things which are mufla mizeh. So one of the ways that we could give a dogma from that is that we find that we say also in the Posich Aliyahu, and you say it every Friday, and there's a lot of Oilin what they say it every day, and that is Antu Chachim V'loi B'chochme Yediyah. You are Chachim, you allow yourself to have Chochma, or you enter the realm of Chochma, V'loi B'chochme Yediyah, but it's not through, we can't know that through knowing Chochma. In other words, knowing Chochmah, the way we understand Chochmah, is not going to help us to understand how you are Chachim, how you enter Chochmah, or how you express Chochmah. Right? In other words, that's referring to the union for Chochmah, how it is in Chochmah Stimua, which is Lamayla Mi'atzilas, because in Rov HaMakeimes we touch Chochmah Stimua as referring to Chochmah, how it is in Atzilas. Chochmah Yediyah, yes. Chochmah Yediyah, we touch that as Chochmah D'Atzilas. But even there, sometimes we say, Antu Chachim V'loi B'chochmah Yediyah. But according for argumentative purposes, we can say that Chochmah Yediyah is Atzilas. Mashikin in the Chochmah, how is in Chochmah Stimua, Chochmah Sheba Arich, Chochmah Sheba Keser, B'Ifn Kloli. Then we say, Antu Chachim V'loi B'chochmah Yediyah. Which means that all the things I know about Chochmah, even up to Atzilus, I can sort of work and really break my head to understand, what is Chochmah, particularly Chochmah, how it is in the spheres of Biyah. And then I say, but the way he is Chochmah, B'emes Lamita, in Antu Chachim, the way he allows himself really to be united with Chochmah, Eloi B'chochmah Yediyah. All my Chochmah's Yediyahs I've got to take away from what he's Antu Chachim. In other words, I've got to negate and say that all that I know about Chochmah Yediyah is not shaykh in here. So by doing that, says the Rebbe, you gradually, you begin to come close to him because you're going away and you say, no, that's not shaykh, that's not shaykh. So kamuvan, then in order to do that, you've got to be quite a bar asoga. You've got to really be oisik in asogas to do that. Because there are certain people's who try to halavai that I can even talk about Chochmah Yediyah. I find that if I could talk about Chochmah D'Atzilas, I would be tremendously, happy and boiled. Even if I could talk about Chochmah Achreis on a much lower level, I would also be Ashrei Misha Zeichel Zeh. So therefore, it's a relative in Antu Chachim V'loi B'chochmah Yediyah. Of putting that statement of the Posich Aliyahu is like a symbol of this whole idea. We're saying you have a certain Indian mitzad you Elikus Chachim of all that I know about Chochmah V'loi B'chochmah. It's not what I know about Chochmah B'Klal. That's a union for shlila. That means I'm canceling out what I do know about certain things, and I'm saying that it's not shaykh in that particular madriga. And the Alter Rebbe brings in the Kutei Torah, the Pasha Pekudei, the Alter Rebbe brings down that that's got Ribi Revovis Madrigas in it, because if you, let's say, there's somewhere in Olam HaBriya, then the way you'll be able to say Atu Chachim Alev Chachmi Adir is absolutely incomparably higher than somebody who's in Netzach Yiseda Briya. Somebody who's in Malchus the Briya, or in Chachma the Yitzira, all the way down through all the elements, all the different levels will be saying Atu Chachim Alev Chachmi Adir on different levels, different Eifanim, different Shlilois, Ad Ein Seif, Ad Ein Tachlis Kemach, of a sof kosov. Everyone who does it with his particular, what you might call his nusach, with his particular effort. Just that comes to, we come to understand what sort of a magushim dik idea the man Shir Lamata has of nonetheless the Rebbe says to. Nonetheless, if you're oisik in that Indian of this shlila of taking out of things, what you know about the ha'oreh, ha'mitzum temes, but that's what he chok me idea, then you can't come to some knowledge. And he said maybe you'll even come. So just imagine how limited and how small of that hakara that you can have is. So if you can. Amamela said that we have fathers if he said that there can be, even in the Erein Seif Hamufla, a certain trace of asogaya, we call it yediyah to a certain extent. There's a certain inyan of yediyah, albeit not in the normal way, but derech hakora al choponim. Amamela, what do we mean by saying leis machshav tvisa bach klal? We must be talking only in madregas which are even higher than the madrega of asogasa ashli. Therefore he says, B'cholzeh, all of this, meaning both the asogas achiyu and the asogas ashlila, shayef b'erein seif hashayach lo elam. We have to say that ultimately, both of these madregas are dealing with a erein seif hashayach lo elam. Now, why do we have to say that? And because if we're going to say that sokos of you as a nivra in oilamas, you could be shoylo from the madregas achiyu, and you can gradually come out and even have a katsasa kore in the area seif hamufla, then sokos of it must be shayach in some way to the oilamas. Otherwise, the oilamas wouldn't be able to have any grasp or any appreciation of filu b'derech rochik or filu b'derech hakore klauloi. We have to say that level which you can come to a katsasa kora through the inyan of shlila daga after madrega, we have to say that it in some way is also shaykh to the elements, and therefore you can come from the ora mislabeshes per elements to a level which is not mislabish, it's mufla. But like we pointed out, the word mufla means that somehow or another it's got a little bit of a shaykhes. And therefore we have to say that it's maybe the makor from which all this ha'ora mitlabeshes it comes from. In other words, the ha'ora mitlabeshes it derives in some way, albeit, but the ha'ora gam came from that level, and that's what we call Tzeivev Kol Almin. But the very fact that we call it Tzeivev Kol Almin means that even though it's Tzeivev, but it's Tzeivev to the Kol Almin, which means that it's got some distant relationship to the Almin, to the Oilamet. Therefore it's possible to go upwards from the Mamale into a Kitsas HaKore in the union of the Tzeivev. But that's what we find that he brings at the beginning of the famous Samech Vav. The Rebbe over there brings the expression Mevin Dova Miteit Dova. There's an expression in the great how do you call it? Chachrim, what they say, you can be Mevin Dova Mitoich Dova. So he touches over there very geschmack. He says you can be Mevin Dova Mitoich Dova. In other words, from a thing which is already mitoich, a thing which is already bislabshes, it's already in the nivroim, Mitoich Dora, you can be Mavin Dora. You can come to appreciate that there's a higher, much more mufladik level, and that's called the Indian of Seivi. The difference is that the Mavin that you have in the Mitoich Dora is not the same Mavin that you have in the Dora. Because the Mavin that you have in the Dora, that's already not Mavin Beklal. No, this is even Hakora B'miktas. And Ashrei me that he reaches that Madrega. But Sokosof, it's all got a shaykh somehow or another to the element. And therefore he says, Kol Zeh Shayach Beri Seif HaShayach Lo Element. Our Bekinas Atzmus Ein Seif, Sheinu Shayach Lo Element is Klal. But in the Atzmus of David, which he's completely moved out from the elements altogether, Einu Shayach Shoma Sokas HaShlila Gamke. You kind of, even Sokas HaShlila over there. The Sokas HaShlila Shayach Rak B'Erin Seif HaShayach Lo Element. So here we see that the Rebbe really plays it down. He says, Sokas HaSokas, the oil which you can some way appreciate through a Sokas HaShlila is really called also Shayach Lo Element. Lefi, why is it called Shayach Lo Element? Lefi Sheyesh Lo Shaychus Ela HaOra Mishlapeshet Lo Element. It must have some sort of a connection to that HaOra which is mislavish in the element. It's just that it's higher and it's much more transcendent than that, but it must have some sort of connection. We have to say that that's the union of Seivev, Shehu Mekoyer Bechinas Mamali Kol Amin. It's the Makir. So albeit it's Mufla and it's moved out from Mamali Kol Amin. It must have some sort of a connection to Mamali because it's the Makir from whence Mamali is Meir Al-Chaponim. But the Ha'ora of Al-Chaponim, it is a Makir. Lefi Choch Shayach Lishleo Mishom Proti Ha'inyonim Sheba Ha'ora. In other words, in India, or from Mamali, which is mislavish in the element, from there you can be Shiloh, those Pratim in the Seivev, because of course the Seivev is a Makir of the Mamali. And that's what we call before Mufla. That's the idea of the word Mufla. It's wondrous, but it's got some sort of a shaykh. And therefore we call it, as we pointed out, Seivev called Almin Kimavur become a Drushim in Siddur. Whatever he says, Einam Pchinas Era Seivev Beklal Shehu Makim Pchinas Mahalei Lafichach Shayach Nishlo Mishom Potem Yatav Avo Biatzim Sein Seiv Sheinu Shayach Ela Ora Klal Einu Shayach Lishel Mishom Ha'inyanim Sheba Ha'ora. You can't, how do you call it? You can't be Shiloh from there, the Inyanim in the Ha'ora. That's like the Elder Rebbe said, it's making a joke out of yourself. Because it's completely, utterly beyond, it's completely, like Amri, another Indian altogether. And therefore he said, you can't be Shiloh Mishoma Inyanim Sheba Ha'ora. Meyachasha Einu Be'era Klal. It's completely and utterly not Be'era. Even the Gabi De'era Seivev, it's absolutely ain't a Rei Klal. Therefore, it doesn't help any Asogas HaShlila at all. So he said, "V'himi yesh b'vadai mushlolim inyanim eilu mibchinas atzmus." Does it zicha that all inyanim that we find even in the Seivev are mushlal legamri from the Ein Sof atzmus Ein Sof? That's for sure. That happens to be true. And we saw that you can't be choike in that afloa. In other words, that afloa is completely and utterly another type of hafloa, which is not really describable as hafloa. And that's what we said. There are two expressions: b'mechusa mimcha al tachchoyer, or b'muflim mimcha al tachsheyer. B'mechusa, something is completely and utterly moved out altogether. Al tachchoyer, you can't even begin the whole idea of any sort of hashlila, even though there's a zikr that he is mushal from all of those inyanim, built in safeh. You can't talk about that. It's not shaykh to make any form of what you might call balance or describing the shlila of those in Yonim in the Ahora from the Atzmas. אם יש בבעדים ושלולים עניינים אלה מתדקדקה. אבל אינו שייך שידע מזה אבן ההפלאה, מייחס שאינו בערך כלל. As this is gronit dos. Yeah, that's a famous expression in Yiddish when you want to say that something is completely bein or completely not shaykh. Yeah, to describe it in any way, in unknown ways, then you say as gronit dos. It's not that at all. Gronit means nothing. It is nothing that. It's not at all anything which can be described as indicatable. It's Gronit dos. En mijn hele zit er hebben, eich jeda v'yasik mishlila zois even after. How's it chaya? That by trying to make shlilas there, you would be able to grasp the oifan of the afloa. The oifan is just too much. It's completely and utterly beyond all possibility of any form of understanding the shlila or the oifan of shlila. Therefore, it's completely another getter altogether. And Mamela, that's the pshat. And Nimcho. How is he from that can understand the even of the afleur of Atzmasayim? The kol shechem, how much more so? She'ef shali is like k'tas hakora b'mahuzadavan. How much more so that you can't possibly have any form of recognition even in the mahus hadova, in the essence of that Indian, like we said before, that through the going into the Asaive, so much through the Shlili, you can have some sort of an appreciation, at least, Bedera Hakora, in the Mufla, of something which is L'gamri L'mayla Mi Mufla, it's completely and utterly, absolutely without the whole Geder, it's completely beyond the whole Indian of Saive, then you can't have any. It's not right to say that you can have a hakora or at least b'miktas in that level. In other words, where shy to have a hakora is only sokosov in, albeit a very elevated level, but a level which is ultimately somehow related to Bilamades. That's the pshat. Seivev ko. I don't mean that it does sokosov. It's a makif to the elements. And therefore it has some sort of a kesha of a atzmasayim ain't safe mamish, but that's completely and utterly beyond, even in a way that's what the Alter Rebbe writes over there in Perik Tes over there, that it's not shot to say in atzmasayim safe, even if you're looking for the Esses Spheres upwards, the Esses Spheres and Atzilas, it's not shot to say that you can't understand it, or you can't appreciate it, because it's just not in that level at all. And then when you say can't understand it, that's also like making a slight misstatement or joke out of the whole thing. It's just completely and utterly beyond any geder or any definitional idea of asoga. And that's why he says the word kolshke. How much more so that you can't possibly to describe as reaching any understanding of the matter, even with Derech HaKorah. So therefore he says, v'nimtze teshum asoga. Afil asoga sashnila. Shizol madrega hayisa naili shivasoga. He said, nimta that any form of asoga, shum asoga. Afilu asoga shashnila, even that level which we call asoga shizol madrega hayisa naili in asoga. That's the highest madrega we have. Einu shayap erin say mamish in the immediate sin of the Eibishter. How we use ain't safe mamish. There we have no appreciation. Afilu b'derech shlilo, and therefore we say that up there, as he's about to finish in a minute, that is the level of leis machshava tafisa bei v'nimta. Says the Rebbe, the shuma sogya afilu zayjan einu shayat be'erein say v'afilu. Oh, it says v'gam afilu b'riya de chokma einu nitfes b'chinas atzmas erein say. So he tries another line, and he's saying, oh, maybe this. And then he says, no, that not either. Now, this is another thing here we call the inifan re'iyah de chokhmah. Now, this is not the sort of thing that is found by, how do you call it, once again in inverted commas, normal b'nei Adam. flows inverted commas. This whole idea of Asogas Hashlila could maybe be found by certain inverted commas normal Bnei Adam. If they were really working hard, then they could have this Asogas Hashlila, etc. But Re'iyah, the Chochmah, Mamish, a seeing, an awareness, as it were, which is so profound that it's like as if you're seeing, but it's not seeing in the physical sense. But this is the famous, the dogma of that is the famous story which you're all familiar with, doubtless, that happened with the Arizal. The Alter Rebbe brings it in the Kutei Torah, Pashat Tzav, in reference to the infant Kriyas Yamsuf taught with the holy and the Gila of the Ein Sof that there was, etc., etc., and compared to how it's going to be Liyosid. But he brings out that there was this Rav that he came for a long journey to visit the Arizal. He came on Shabbos, he came on Erev Shabbos, Pasha Bolak Bilak. They say to us in the Kisvei Arizal. Pasha Bolak Bilak, they say to us. He came, so he made a whole cheshbon that on Friday, he can't disturb the Erev Shabbos, can't disturb the first light the Arizal. And by Friday he goes out in the field, he's a couple of Shabbos, and to do it, and then he davens and do it. And then he comes home, he has to have some time with his family, the rest of the Shabbos, he can't disturb him Friday night. So he decided that the Shabbos in the morning, right there, preparations for davening, and telling I can't disturb him. Shabbos, Pasha Bolak Bilam happens to be a long Shabbos, it's a Shabbos in the summer, in the afternoon, so he decided on Shabbos afternoon he'd come round and he'd ask to be introduced to the Arizal. He would find him in a way that he might be slightly able to, appreciate a visitor, at least receive a visitor. So he comes around, and he says to the Bnei Bayis, he wants to meet the Arizal. And so he's told that the Arizal's shlofing. It's a Shabbos. He's having a Shabbos afternoon manucha, a shlof. So he says, he's missed. He missed again, as they say. He said, but could he just peep in? Could he just take a look? He just wants to see the Arizal. Maybe he could be just permitted to see him. So all of a sudden the Arizal's laying on a couch or whatever, and all of a sudden he sees it. The Arizal's lips are moving. Yeah, you guys know the story. It's a famous Sipur. So he saw the Arizal's lips are moving. So he runs over. He waits till the Rebbetzin goes away, and then he ducks into the room. And he runs over to the room. He puts his head down near the Arizal's lips because he wants to hear what's he talking. Obviously, he's not stopped talking. He must be talking words. So all of a sudden the Arizal wakes up. And he sees this guy with his head alongside him down to his face and everything. So he says to him, what are you doing here? So the guy says, million machilas and bakoshes sliches, they're like this very chutzpah and so on. I come all the way from Chosvanet, to meet you, and here I came and I saw you were learning. I wanted to hear what you were saying. So there is yours. So he says, would you please be able to, just reveal me just a little bit of what you were learning now. So the Arizal said, believe me, he said, if I was to talk for 60 or 80 years, if I was to talk, the Dibba, Shishim Boy Shmoinim Shana, I wouldn't be able to reveal to you what I was just learning, even though it took 10 minutes. So when the guy heard that, it's just another league, some another ball game again. 60, 80 years out to talk. So he said, thanks very much. Can he just pass his credentials? My name is Kafir Kach. I came to meet you, so I won't take up your time. So the Alter Rebbe said, why is it a pshat? So the Alter Rebbe said, because the Arizal's way of learning was in an even for Re'iyah, the Chach. Re'iyah. And what you could see in the Einay HaSeichel, what you see, you can't give over in Dibur, it's not tight. it wouldn't come into Diva. It would take 60 or 80 years. It also wouldn't come into Diva. That's a Inim for Re'iyah. So the Rebbe says that Mi'ain Zeh will also be Liosid. Yeah, we'll see a row Kol Basa Kipi Hashem Diber. Comes along the Rebbe Melech Mashiach, one of the Maimarim, and the Rebbe says, oh yeah, but that's only a step towards what's going to be Liosid. The result being is he was the Gilui Pnimis HaTorah. He took the whole Asoga Pnimis HaTorah a further step into Re'iyah, Mamish Re'iyah Shebe'enei HaSeichel. Over the Yossi Love, even the Pasha, the mensch, is going to have a Re'iyah B'Riyas Chushi Yesu B'Einei Basa Mamish in the Unifanel Kut, isn't it? So therefore it's a further step of it. Now this it's a Gemaldik Madrege. Well, that's even from Re'iyah the Chochmah. Now Moshe Rabbeinu also had that. Moshe Rabbeinu said he went to Madrege for Re'iyah the Chochmah, and that was brought down. The Rizal was I don't know how you could say such a thing, it was a Gilgul, or it was like a reappearance of Moshe Rabbeinu B'zeh Ha'olam. State in Sfarim, it's brought down a field of Siddur. So I got to mind in the middle of it where he brings down about that. The Rizal was a Gilgul of Moshe Rabbeinu. Anyway, how it shouldn't be, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu also had that Madrega of what's called Re'iyah the Chochmah. I mean, that's another thing that you just experience things. You don't understand them. It's like as if you see them, but it's real the mind. It's not. So that's a very high madrega. So the Rebbe said maybe this Indian, or maybe this Indian of Atzma saying safe. Yeah, you can be masig in Re'iyah the Chochmah. So he said no, even Re'iyah the Chochmah can't make it. That's what he says now. And Shaykh, he said, Uvagam afilu, Beria the Chochmah, Eino Nitves, Beginus Asmus, Ein Seif, Tahari Ria the Chochmah, who in Rias Ein Aseichel. So he said, soft, it's a Re'iyah, and it's an eye, it's like a eye, but it's an eye of the mind. It's a tremendous, unbelievable madrega in the mind, but Sokosof, it's the mind. It's the Riyas Eina Seichel, Ve'ein Zeh Tevet B'Prinas Ha'atzmos. He said, that can't be Tevet, Mamish Atzmos Kondesne. But Yosid, take it easy, you guys. But Yosid, we're going to be Tevet B'Riyah, I feel in this madrega. He said, V'haraya mi Moshe, and the rayas from Moshe Rabbeinu, a commission is Bo'aliyu, B'diva Masu Lulavia, So here we come to the famous problem. If we would put you guys to the test, and what sort of a result would we get? That's a mind that we learn. Lulavarova is a mind that we learn. And it's written over there that the raya is from Moshe. Was it the raya? It just shows you how much chazorah you guys are going to do. So he's trying now to catch up. He's trying to look over. He thinks he's going to find it. Maybe the issue to help him.
I think this was last
time. So anyway, Bekitzer, what is written over there? That Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Eibishter, yeah, Hareini noas chveidacha, show me your emes and glory. Moshe Rabbeinu. So the Eibishter said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he said, Lo yisuchol liroisas ponoi. You won't be able to see my pnimiyas. Kiim avoreisa es achurai. The achurai, that you'll be able to see. The pnimiyas you won't be able to see. Even though Moshe Rabbeinu said, show me, which means in Riyah. Moshe Rabbeinu said, why did Moshe Rabbeinu say, Hareini no es kveitecha? Because Moshe Rabbeinu is even from Riyah. Remember, he wanted to have it in the even from Riyah. And Dave said, I'm sorry, my pnimiyas I can't show. But Reis is Achurai, the famous Rashi over there. Where's it from the Gamsa Maharaj? Rashi says, Malamed Shehera Loi Keshe Shel Tfilin. The famous Maharaj. What you do is, you put this to Keshe Shel Tfilin. But anyway, whatever. Suffice it to say that even Ria the Chochma, they said in my Pnimis V'atzmis, I'm sorry, I can't show it, even with that Ria the Chochma that Moshe Rabbeinu had, is a siman that in Atzmis ain't say, how do you call it, the whole Indian of the Moyach just is not able to be Tevis in even Atzmis. And he said, V'zehu leis machshova tefisa v'klal. The begins machshova. The word machshova indicates all possibilities of the moyar. And therefore he said, the begins machshova asoge de bina. Begins ayesha and yeina shuina asoge sashlila. Begam begins machshova de chochma. He reckons that all these levels. He said, what that's the union of choshal ma. That's how chochma and machshova are connected. There's one now. The Alter brings it in Tan Perek Beis. The Chochma Machshava, the word Machshava makes the two syllables Choshav Ma, but that's even from Beetle Mamishu B'chinas Ariya, Eino Teves B'chinas Atzmeh. So we'll see that he goes on to say that that's not only just by the Neshamas down here, but that's even by the Spheres Haki Alienas, they are a Maila. None of them can be Teves, but the senior from Riyusa de Liba is here able to be Tevet. Our Nitvis will be Riyusa de Liba. So it's going to answer the shadow, what is the senior from Riyusa de Liba? But all these things can't be Tevet of Riyusa de Liba, yeah. With Riyusa de Liba you can be Tevet Mamish and Atzmis. We have to work out what is that, what sort of a level is Riyusa de Liba. So we'll have to leave you guys to what damage you the yearning and the chuk and the garguim to know what is this Matrika from Rusa to leave it. I don't know if you guys will be able to hold out.
So you can have a Hasaga in Atmos. So you can have a Hasaga in Atmos?
Nicht Hasaga.
So you're saying
Rusa to leave it. Shum Hasaga is not going to work. I feel the Hasaga from Chochma, the Atzilus, I feel for Chochma, the Arich, v'chuli.
So what are we saying? You only,
when he says the union of what he call it, Rusa de Liba, then he means the way you are down here. The way you are down here, you can literally be Tevis Atzmas. So that's Rusa de Liba means the heart. So this is to it. There's a similar, there's something in the whole union from Pnimis Alev or the Sikoros. So I apologize, we'll have to leave you guys in a form of Chukka Vishteichikas. You have to know what is this, what's this unbelievable Madrega. But we have to remain with the main Chukka, and the main Vishteichikas is to Ad Mosai. To when we have to go to Pupil, Mamish. Because the more you examine it, the more you see that the whole union is that the Rebbe was trying to teach us it's an old thing. It's a thing that goes right back from the moment that Golo B'nayim al Shulchan Aviyim, that the sons left their father's table. So a son says that he's only places by his father's table. You can't say, this Golo has got my list, I can do this, I got a car, I got 2 cars. I got a nice chignon, I got a business, I got a this. I learn a lot, for Talmud Chacham, I got a big base madrasa, lovely place, it doesn't geschmack, Machadish Inyanim in Torah, so there can be a little machshava that says, what do you need to go? What's so bad? So it's that it's not the Gevurah. Can't decide it. Can't be it. Anyway, that's it's very, very hard for people to chap. To chap their whole union. Can't be satisfied for a moment with the in and out there.
Colors.
And we have to have only the
Good.
good few man.
Okay.
In the meantime, I got a bit of the Golas fire here, that's called Gel.